So happy Mindfulness Monday, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. If you're new here, so glad that you found this space to connect to the present moment in community. And welcome back to all of you who've been here before. Please know that you will be muted for the duration of today's session. Feel free to use the chat function and to communicate with us, share questions, thoughts, where you're joining from. It's always fun to see where folks are joining from around the world. I'm in Western North Carolina, and we got our first snow of the season this morning. So, really feeling the invitation to slow down and move more inward as I come into the winter season. So, thank you all for joining us. Our next live English session will be on Monday, November 24th. That's Monday, November 24th. Before we get into it, I want to remind you all about our PD Health at Home virtual programs. Each week we offer programs tailored to people with Parkinson's and their care partners, also allied health professionals. That includes our Mindfulness Mondays, Wellness Wednesdays, Fitness Fridays, and our expert briefings, as well as our Spanish language series, Y Saludo en Casa. Be sure to visit our website to see what's coming up and explore our archive videos on YouTube. This week's Wellness Wednesday, I'm really looking forward to hosting our final expert briefing of the season. It'll be a subject on exploring complementary therapies and functional medicine. So this program, again, this Wednesday, streaming live this Wednesday, November 12th, will introduce non-drug options such as massage, acupuncture, red light therapy, and CBD that can help relieve symptoms and enhance daily well-being. So you can learn more about that upcoming expert briefing at parkinson.org/pdhealth. And today we welcome back Dr. Taylor Rush from the Cleveland Clinic. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us and guiding us into mindfulness today.
Thank you, Krista. It's good to see everyone again. And we also got our first snow here in Cleveland last night. So the commute into work was a little different today as I get used to snow and ice on roadways again, but always adapting to change. And I see in the comments that there are a few people here that came to the Care Partner Summit this past Saturday, so you might have seen me there as well. And it was such an amazing, responsive group of people who joined, and we talked about a lot of things on Saturday that I think are so relevant to our care partners as well as to our individuals who are dealing with Parkinson's. And one topic that came up, and I saw a lot of talk about in the chat, was when we were discussing boundaries. And I think that boundaries ends up being a very, I don't know, controversial is the right word, but it's a talked about topic, and I think there's a lot of meaning behind that word boundary that sometimes gets misinterpreted. And I know this is Mindfulness Monday, and so this sounds a little different in terms of, when we think about boundaries, how is that related to mindfulness? But really, it's kind of at the heart of it because mindfulness helps us to notice what's happening inside of us, our thoughts, our emotions, our body cues, before we automatically react to something. And sometimes that something we're reacting to is saying yes out of guilt or habit or pressure. And when we slow down and notice kind of what our bodies are telling us, what our emotions are telling us, we can sometimes begin to choose more wisely how we spend our finite energy and attention. Because, as you all know quite well, living with Parkinson's, as well as being a care partner for someone with Parkinson's, energy is an incredibly precious resource. Every day involves a series of choices in terms of how much to take on, when to rest, where to focus attention, and even just focusing attention takes energy, right? And many of us are taught from a young age that we shouldn't say no unless we absolutely have to. Saying no is almost seen as being unkind or dismissive, and that perhaps our needs ought to come last on the list of needs that we're helping others with. But from a mindfulness perspective, we don't see boundaries as barriers. We actually see them as acts of compassion and awareness. And that's something that we ended up talking a lot about on Saturday. They let us respond to situations rather than react. And boundaries also can help us to notice what's sustainable and what isn't. And so every time we pause and can just mindfully check in with ourselves, right? How's my body right now? What's my energy level? What do I need to stay well in this moment? That's just practicing mindfulness in real time and in a very relevant and appropriate way for managing your physical and emotional well being. So, setting a kind boundary is mindfulness in action, right? So, noticing what's happening in the moment, honoring limits, and communicating them with warmth and understanding instead of guilt. Because we're not trying to shut people out or limit ourselves in ways that are harmful. It's about protecting your capacity that allows you to then keep showing up so that you can be patient with yourself and others, so that there can be some sense of steadiness and some care for yourself as well as others. When we spend all of our energy on things that maybe aren't fulfilling, aren't helpful, aren't ours to take on without replenishing our own reserves, the quality of our lives suffer, our presence in any given moment suffers. And so boundaries are meant to help us to create space for rest, for enjoyment, for connection. And that's where we can sometimes really help to grow our compassion for ourselves as well as others that are in our lives. And so I thought we could take some time and do a little bit of a guided meditation to focus on some of these things and see how we can put it into play in real time, especially as it relates to some of that compassion and checking in piece. So let's explore and see where this goes, okay? So, as usual, I want you to sit or lie down or whatever position most is comfortable for you, where you feel supported. And certainly, if you're comfortable doing so, you can close your eyes or you can keep them open and just find a soft, fixed gaze somewhere a few feet in front of you. And I just want you to start by taking a slow, steady breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And if you have trouble with nose breathing, that's perfectly fine. You can use your mouth for any breath in or breath out. And as you kind of connect to your breath and to your body, I want you to consider how you can imagine your energy right now. Again, we all have a gas tank of energy and it's flowing through us. And we expend that energy, and then we also have to try to renew that energy. So some people imagine that their energy level as a light that's soft or bright, or almost like an electrical current moving through their body. Where do you notice that your energy feels steady, strong? And where does your energy feel drained or tense? For some people, they may say it's my legs feel quite drained, or my shoulders feel quite drained, or energy surrounding my face feels strong. Just kind of get a sense of where you notice feeling strength and maybe feeling drained. And remember with mindfulness, the key here is to observe this without judgment. We're not trying to fix anything. We're not criticizing where we feel drained or steady, just noticing is this practice. And if you feel comfortable doing so, I want you to bring to mind a recent situation where maybe you felt rather stretched thin, where perhaps you gave more than what you actually had. Maybe take a moment to reflect on what that felt like in your body. Did you notice tension or tightness, or maybe increased fatigue, or some prickliness, or, lower threshold for patience, or possibly a sense of urgency or pressure? Just connecting to how that shows up in your body. The more we can recognize it proactively, the more we can label it in that moment mindfully. And as you continue to think about this, I want you to gently offer yourself a phrase of compassion. It's okay to care deeply and still need rest. It's okay to do what I can and then take a break. Consider taking another slow, deep breath here, as there may be areas that you notice start to feel tighter as you think about these things. And imagine in that scenario where you had overextended yourself and maybe said yes to doing something that perhaps ended up not being in your best interest. Imagine now you're about to say no, not out of anger or rejection, but out of kindness. Maybe picturing yourself saying, I care about this. And I also need to take care of myself. I need to restore my energy. Maybe notice what happens in your body as you say this. You might feel relief or courage, maybe softening of some critical edges, or it may still provoke some discomfort for you. And whatever's there, we welcome it. Part of mindfulness is responding with compassion to whatever it is that we feel instead of sometimes that knee jerk reaction of criticism or guilt. And as you breathe, consider saying the following things to yourself. May I honor my limits? May I use my energy wisely? May I care for myself with balance and kindness? Again, may I honor my limits? May I use my energy wisely? May I care for myself with balance and kindness? Just allow these words to settle as you take a few more intentional breaths here. Maybe even realizing that right here, right now, by being here, you have made a choice to prioritize you, which implicitly means that you have already said no to some other things that could have filled this space. So know that this is something that you are capable of doing because you're doing it right now. And when you're ready, you can start to introduce a little bit of intentional movement. You might shift the weight of your hips. You might wiggle fingers and toes or roll your shoulders. Start to focus your eyes on awareness of your surroundings a little bit more acutely and gently coming back to our Zoom space here. Okay, so we're starting to see some eyes, I think. Yep, I'm seeing some eyes. I understand that for some, this might be evening time or just after lunchtime. So, sometimes we end up maybe drifting just a little bit, which is okay. And I think, I would love to hear comments from folks. I think you all do such a good job giving us feedback on these practices and what you found helpful, what you may have struggled with, any insights along the way. And, I would love for you to reflect on this practice and thinking about how you may be able to use mindfulness, to be able to just do these small check ins in order to help inform how you approach decisions about how you're using your time and energy during the day. Let's see. So we had someone say huge may I affirmations and dismantling the past, which I think often we end up having, I don't say unlearn, because I don't think we ever unlearn something. We just try to learn over something we've learned And, how do we do that in a way that is helpful to us based on past patterns that may not have been so helpful? And so I think that, you know, that is an ongoing process for many people. I don't think that's easy, but I do think that the awareness of I need to sometimes shift how I'm looking at things from my typical reaction ends up making such a big difference over time. Let's see. Someone said such a good reminder that no is okay. Not something I'm good at, but I'm thankful for the reminder and monitor my energy. Yeah, I think so many of us there's a very visceral reaction to saying that word no, and so many thoughts and worries that attach to it that, I think it is a struggle for a great number of people, hence why we end up talking about it so much. But, again, it's never perfect, right? It's always going to be practice. And Chris had mentioned that she likes to pause on purpose, especially when feeling myself moving from a place of urgency. Yes. And I often will tell my patients that, it's those moments when you're like, I don't have time to check in with myself. I don't have time to take a breath. That's probably actually the time you most need it. So, how do we recognize those moments as, oh, this is when I actually do need to lean in and use that as our cue? And someone said, this reminded me of the saying, beautiful no leaves room for beautiful yes. Saying yes to the things that are good for me. Yes. And that's the thing is that, to say no or to provide a limit or a boundary on something in terms of your energy, which again, finite resource. How do we do that in a way where we recognize that it actually creates opportunity for us in the ways that matter most, in those things that we really want to invest our time and energy into? And someone mentioned that their cats are distracting, and I laugh because every time I'm doing Zoom visits with people who have cats, I meet them without fail. um, but I care about this, and I need to take care of myself. Yeah, it doesn't have to be either or. It is often both. But how do we balance them? And someone said. My wife says I have a hard time putting myself first, especially those times when I need to, and working on saying no, and sometimes have surprised myself, which I assume is a good surprise that, hey, I can do this. And hey, I'm not on, everyone's blacklist as a result of saying no. I can do this and still be respected and loved and valued. Calm me down so I can take a nap. I know some of these lulling voices can certainly pull you into a state of deeper rest than just meditation. Um, Meditation, first thing in the morning, helps me to keep stock of how I'm feeling throughout the day. And so someone mentioning that they get panicked when spending time on mindfulness when trying to get everything else done. But that's kind of the point, is to show I can spend time on mindfulness. Other things will still get done. It may not always look exactly the same, but maybe I actually have a little bit more time and energy to do it because I am practicing these things. Let's see. Hardest to conserve energy when there seems to be significant external urgency that no one else can do. And sometimes, look, life is hard, and sometimes there are things that are unique to one situation that makes it harder for them to delegate or push things off. And there are times, though, when one does have to step back and say, okay, at how long is this sustainable before something is going to give, whether I want it to or not? At what point is my body going to pull the emergency brake on me? And so recognizing that at some point, let's look at this with a beginner's mind. How can we find other ways to make things happen? And who can I maybe ask for help in some of that? Oh, and someone said this is very relevant with the holidays coming, and I agree wholeheartedly. Because there's ever a danger zone of boundaries becoming very diffuse and overextending, I would say the holidays are one of the biggest. And let's see, I feel guilty when I don't keep busy, or I need to remind myself that it's okay to rest. Yes, I think that hear that often, and I totally understand that myself. It's like, well, if I'm not doing something, what am I doing? How am I contributing? What is the purpose of my existence if I'm not serving a utility to something else? And so sometimes we have to also recognize that these moments of recharge or moments where we say no in order to preserve our strength helps us to then be more productive. There's a return on investment here that one needs to consider that I don't think we always recognize. So I think you have to kind of spin that to recognize that, it's not that you're doing nothing. It's that you're doing something that then helps you to be more productive in your own life and make it more worth your time. So I know we are running up against our half hour. It always goes by so fast. But I want to leave a moment for Krista if there's anything that you would want to add for us and tie a bow on it.
Thanks, Taylor. I really appreciate the way that you continue to invite us into these spaces of reflection, and all of you who take the time and have the courage to be here, to be present with those reflections, to be present with the inquiries. As Taylor said, life is hard, and how can I choose to make it a little bit easier for myself? Saying no to one thing is saying yes to something else. So may we use that word intentionally to support not only ourselves, but to those that we impact in our lives. All right, my friends. Our next program, our next Mindfulness Monday, will be on November 24th. I think I'm leading that one. We're going to be doing a gratitude practice. So come hang out with me. We're going to express some gratitude. Sometimes gratitude can be difficult to express, especially on those days when we're feeling a little off. So when it feels harder, I implore you to come. This is when we need it the most, as Taylor was saying. So November 24th, we'll be doing a gratitude practice. And at any point during your journey, as always, the Parkinson's Foundation's helpline is here to support you. Information's on the screen there for you to connect with them. Our helpline is staffed by Parkinson's specialists and voiced by real humans. So I encourage you, if you can't reach your doctor, you can't go to a support group, or not sure how to navigate, or maybe even ask a question or communicate with somebody, call our helpline. We're here for you. All right, until our next session, may you continue to pause on purpose, especially in those moments when you feel like you can't. We'll see you soon.